Alright, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to uh, take this photo manipulation and essentially I'm going to kind of make it look more cohesive. And from when I first look at this thing, the first thing that I notice that seems a bit off is her color. Because as you can see, this scene is lit by a grayish blue sky. And that's the kind of light that would be filtered onto everything. And that would mean that this girl would not be nearly as bright as she appears. So what I'm going to do to remedy that is I'm going to go to image and then adjustments. And I'm going to go with a hue saturation adjustment. Actually, scratch that, no, not. What I want to do, image adjustments, and I want to change the color balance. Yeah, and I'm going to take this more towards cyan. As you can see, that's cooling out, and then we'll see what we get. If we maybe bring the magenta down a little bit, I don't like that. Let's sum that up a bit. Okay, there we go. Add the green. All right, and as you can see, what we have going on here is it's getting cooler and it's starting to look a bit more like everything else in the scene. I think I want things a bit more blue here, but not too blue because I don't want it to look like she's freezing to death. And I think that's got the general idea of what we want here. And I might take the highlights and also make them even just a little bit bluer. And then to make her look not quite as blue as I've gone, I'm going to take the shadows and I'm going to run them up a little bit. Just a little. There we go. I like that. Alright. As you can see already, she's kind of looking a bit more integrated with the environment. And one thing you get when you're just looking at something is the camera focuses on one thing, and you adjust the camera so that whatever you're wanting to be the subject is in focus, and then everything else is therefore a bit out of focus, which would mean that these trees back here would also be, like, not nearly as crisp as they are. Like, if you're actually staying that far away from trees, you wouldn't really see much detail in them. And the same as if you're sitting close enough to this girl that she's this, that, you know, her scale, she's this size, like you're standing right in front of her. And if you're standing right in front of this girl, then you're probably not going to get a very good look at this fence post, and you'll definitely not be able to make out all the detail in these bricks. So what I'm going to do to bring down the level of detail in the background is I'm going to apply a Gaussian blur. So I'm going to go to filter, and then down to blur, and I'm going to go to Gaussian blur. And you can decide how much of a blur you want, with essentially the radius. And I'm just going to kind of move it around till it looks like what I want. Alright, let's see. We'll apply that and see how we feel about that. Not quite as much as I want. Alright, let's do it again. Blur, Gaussian blur. Let's see. That might be too much, but let's apply it and see what it looks like before we decide. Okay, alright. I am liking the look of this. We're going to go ahead and say, okay. So, alright, as you can see, what we have now is, in the background that's kind of fading the distance, she's very sharp. And now what we have next we want to contend with is this post up front is also very in focus. And again, because it's so close in the foreground, it wouldn't really be. So there's two things I want to do with this. First of all, actually, I want to bring it down a bit more. Like I want to move this layer down. So I've selected the move tool here, and we're just going to bring that down a bit. There we go. And let's see. Alright. And let's line that up so that it doesn't get cut off at the edges. And that's just again, to help keep it from pulling focus. And what I'm going to do next is actually, I'm going to lower the contrast on this, I'm going to darken it, and I'm going to blur it. And what that gives is the effect of something that's very close to us, that's out of focus, because obviously it's the foreground element. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, image adjustment. We want to adjust the brightness and contrast. So I'm going to take the contrast down on this because we don't want to have nearly the sharpness of contrast it has now. And I'm also going to reduce the brightness because I'd like this to be pretty considerably darker than it is. Like, that looks about right. Okay. And then again, we're going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and alright. And we're actually going to blur this quite a bit. Like, not enough that we can't tell what it is, but enough that there's not a lot of distinct detail on it. Alright, and there we go. And again, that puts it in much clearer focus to kind of pull everything else in the background out of focus. And let's see. Oh wow, this is looking quite good. It's already quite an attractive image. And the next thing I'd like to do is that I would like to go and, alright, we have an issue here with lighting. Because as you can see, the light on her is coming from over here. Light is coming from, well, my right, our right, and it's going this way, casting shadows over here. But as you can see, this bridge is clearly lit from over on this side, and it's casting shadows over here. So essentially there's different light sources on this woman and on this background. So what I want to do about that is I'm essentially just going to I'm going to create a layer here, another layer here, and I'm going to take the brush tool and I'm going to go ahead and size it down a bit. I'm going to paint more, and I'm going to paint more lightness over here and paint more lightness over here, so that we don't get the impression that our light is coming from the wrong direction. So I'm going to hit Alt, I'm going to select this color here, and I'm going to lower the opacity on this a fair amount, because I'm pretty low, so I can have some control over what I'm doing here. And I'm just going to go in and we are going to just paint out some of, turn that up a bit. We're going to paint out some of this darkness here because we don't really, we don't want a shadow of this strength of the color in this area, because that's kind of giving a bit of a backwards impression of the lighting. We still have some shadow here, just because sunlight isn't entirely directional. We also have the sky as a light source, and because the sky is an ambient light, that means it casts light everywhere. So there would still be a bit of shadow here, just because these sources are so close together, but it wouldn't go across in quite the same way as like when the photo is taken from the sun over here. So I'm just going to go and just coming through here and lighting this up. Alright. So that's kind of clearing this up, and I'm going to switch to a round fuzzy brush and essentially continue what I am doing here and just make it more and just make it lighter in this area here. And since this light's coming here, that means this woman would be casting a bit of a shadow here. So just to give that impression, I'm going to get some of this color here, and I'm just going to bring some of it on over like that, because it would just look a bit odd not to have any darkness in this area at all. Because one thing that always looks a bit strange in front of manipulations is when people fail to cast shadows in an expected kind of way. So I'm just continuing with that. Here we go. And what I want to do next is I want to make sure that the light seems to be coming from the right direction. And one way of doing that is I want to just add some more. I want to add some more highlight on these bricks over here. I want to lighten that up and add some more highlight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the brush to the screen blending mode. And what that's going to do is it's going to not affect the dark areas, just the lighter ones, and it's going to let me sort of brighten things up over here. And I'm just going to go through and add some more light in here. There we go. Nothing too significant, but I just don't want to give the impression that this area is in shadow because it should not be. Alright. Here we go. And then I'm going to go and just dusting it up here just a little bit. Not much. And take the brush back to normal mode here. Alright. And do the same up here. There we go. And we'll darken in just a little bit more in here. Grab that color just lightly. Alright. And now the next thing you want to do is to give more of the appearance of these, thin, frilly outer layers of her skirt being transparent. What I want to do is I want to grab the color behind them and just paint over them a bit in some places, because it looks like this is extracted from a background that is darker than this one. And again, it's not necessary to be very heavy-handed with this, but I do, oh, and I want to do that on top of here. Voila, so I'm going to create a new layer on top of her, and here we go. We're just going to, that's too much, gently paint just a bit of the background color on top of here, because it looks like it was extracted from a background that's a bit darker. And I'm going to just sort of counteract that a bit, because in places where it's kind of dark and tealy, that's not exactly what I want. So I'm just going through and kind of softly adding some snow color on top of that to kind of help give the impression that her skirt is transparent. And just going around doing that. I want to use the brush that's a bit harder. Turn up the hardness, because we don't need to be quite so soft. We don't want to lose all of our edges here. We just like to add in some lightness here. There we go. So we're just going around. Alright. And I'm going to soften her just a little bit. Like, let's see. I want to go and turn everything off because I just want to just slightly soften that. Because everything is so soft here. And I'm just going to quickly use a magic wand to, let's see, once I find it, Where is it? Wasn't this unfortunate, but I guess it's gotta happen at least once while I'm making a video. Here we go. Alright. And I just want to... Actually, no, I don't. Never mind. I changed my mind. I'm going to leave that just the way it is. Alright. And again, we have a bit of a lighting question with this here, and I'm going to do the same thing I did everywhere else. That was what's bothering me. Because again, what should be happening here is, like, on her, you have light here, and then you have shadow back here, and it's a little bit off on these here. So I'm just going to shade a bit along the top of that, and that should give us a general idea of what we want. And I think I want to take the contrast down even just a bit more on that. And make that just a bit darker. There we go. That is what I want. And I want a rougher brush. I do not want to do this with that very fuzzy brush at all. And I'm just locking this layer because I'm an artist and I don't have to worry about going outside the lines. And again, I'm just doing this so that the lighting on the girl and lighting on this come a bit closer together. Because one thing that's a dead giveaway when you've taken images that are done in different lighting conditions and put them together is, well, anytime in which you don't correct that. So I'm just going through and matching it up a bit, and let's see, like I'm adding a bit of highlight here, but like not much of one because this is intentionally an area of low contrast because we don't really want the viewer's eye to be driven here. We want them to look up here at her. And that is all I'm going to do. I like what we have here. Have a nice day.